Going to honestly, one of the things I said to myself was I was going to reduce the amount of complaint and the decadence I see in this country and focus on the positive part, doing the little I can, helping people and doing all that. But I think there's a level it gets to where you can no longer keep quiet. And for this particular topic that I'm about to address, it has been disturbing me so much that I can't sleep. I wake up, it's in my mind. I just got off the shower. It was just there in the shower with me. And if I don't get this out, the way it always lays in my spirit, I feel I'm committing a capital sin. When a child begins to steal meat from the mother's pot, and the mother catching the child does very little in terms of punishment, or showing the child this is the consequences of this, what the mother is doing is that the mother is breeding a hardened criminal that will eventually grow up and even destroy her own life or become a national disgrace to the family. We have a constitution that governs this country. And I don't see why when it is time to execute that constitution, we are not as vocal as we should be. The Bible says, who builds a house without first counting the cost? This might come from a positive light, but also who commits a crime? Anybody that you see commit a crime has already in his heart made up his mind, if this thing casts, this will be my fate. So I do not see why the capital punishment for kidnapping is death. And some of these kidnappers are caught. And yes, they are caught. Some of them get caught. I will give credit to the Nigerian police, at least to that point. I have information that some of them get caught. We don't hear anything. Whether they are being imprisoned or whether they are being executed or whether, we don't hear anything. I think that the same way this thing makes round social media, when caught should make round social media. And if you ask me, there should be a dedicated channel, just like Big Brother Nigeria, that is dedicated to catching some of these people that do these things and are shown public execution. They are publicly executed. Children can go to bed, it's past their bedtime. It's not for children. Put parental control on it. Because until we start executing consequences to certain actions, we cannot see the results. We want to copy China. We want to be like China, but we don't have the balls that China has. The punishment for kidnapping in China is death. The punishment for corruption in China is death. Oh, you think they don't have animalistic behavior? People that behave anyhow. You think they don't have it? It is the consequences of every action that puts a society in check. So the kidnap rate has gone high. The reason is not because the police is not doing much. It's because the ones that are seeing what is going on and how these kidnappers are buying things for themselves and living life feels it's a lucrative business, because that one that entered inside prison, he's out in a couple of months. So I can go into it. If they can show their colleagues being executed on TV, watch how that thing will drop. This has nothing to do with church. There's a place for morality. There's a place for people to change and give their lives to Christ. This is not part of those places, because our job should be to uphold the constitution of this. Even in the midst of the 12 disciples, there was a criminal, and the law caught up with him. I am begging, if it is possible, and this has nothing to do with human rights, stay clear, human rights. Anytime you kidnap somebody, do you know that you have actually bite the person? You've killed the person, even though the person is still alive. That is why it is not the same penalty now. It's not the same weight that stealing carries with kidnapping. Because stealing, you can take something that belongs to somebody. In the person's absence, no life was hurt, no life was threatened. You can do 5 years. There is a punishment for that. But when it's armed robbery or kidnapping, it's heavier. Because when human lives are involved, I have not seen one person that was kidnapped and recovered and came back and became the same. Go and ask. The trauma stays with them to their last breath. So how come we are seeing these things Okay, look at the picture of this girl has been in my head for days. The little girl, the young girl that kidnapped, she's in prison. You can sense fear. I watched that video and I weep. Because that could be anybody. That could be my sister. That could be my child. And it's even a girl that does not have anything. The parents does not have any money. Look at the fear on that girl's face. If by the grace of God that girl is releasable, you think that girl will be the same? She's traumatized for life. And these people that are caught should not be let go scot-free. Not in the law should uphold when it comes to this issue called kidnapping. And let us watch how this thing will drop drastically. What are we doing? It's not my words, it's the Constitution. The penalty for kidnapping in this country, the Constitution says that is execution. Why have we not seen it on TV? Why have we not even heard or seen it on the blog? The same thing camera does. If a criminal enters a place and sees that there is camera, he holds it because he knows that that camera is checkmating. That is what the law does. That is what Constitution does. That is why China is the way it is. I was in China the other day for a business trip. My interpreter left my bag that had my passport in the lobby. I was panicking. I was like, oh, my everything was there. The Chinese, they were looking at me weird. Even the interpreter was a Nigerian that lives there. They were looking at me like, what is wrong with you? I said, you left. They could have stolen it. They said they don't steal in China. They were looking at me. I'm like, what do you mean? I don't know human beings. They say yes. All of them, which I had money, I said yes, but they don't steal in China. The person went, collected my bag and gave it to me. Everything was intact. Because the penalty for that is either 20 years in prison or life imprisonment. Begin to implement the consequences of certain actions that some people behave in this country, and you see how the place will change. This is not about social media. Until we begin to uphold these constitutions, we will not see the change. There's nobody safe. And it's like this is affecting almost the poor people. Have you noticed that most people that are being kidnapped on the heavier capacity are people that don't even have the money? Until this is addressed, is all talk. It's content. We are not serious. If we must begin to see change, we have to start taking our lives seriously. We have to start taking the Constitution seriously. We have to start taking the things that it says. Even the Bible itself has its own laws. But until then, we are joking.